Hi, I'm Quinn with Open Awareness Yoga, and I'm just sitting down to record a Yin Yoga session for you. And it's nothing fancy. My husband is working in the makeshift office, typing away, and there's construction going on outside. So it won't be perfect, but this will be a practice for you to relax completely. Yin yoga is passive yoga. We get into a stretch, a nice feeling stretch, support ourselves with props that I'll walk through in a second, and stay there for about 4 minutes at a time, sometimes shorter, sometimes longer. So I have a watch. I'll be counting the time for you. And in this class, we'll be doing a stretch around the legs. Okay, so we're going to stretch the top of the thigh, the quadriceps. We're going to stretch the inner thigh. We're going to stretch the outer hips. We're going to stretch the hamstrings, and we're going to be laying on the ground the whole time. And because everybody's different, flexible, everyone has different flexibilities, we need a lot of stuff to make sure we can be comfortable in the pose. So you'll just gather these things, and you'll learn as you practice what you need and what you don't need. So if you have yoga blocks at home, get all of them, and just have them near your practice space. They're just to make us more comfortable. It's nothing super fancy. So you can also use a bunch of hardback books. You know, these are about the same height. 3 of them are about the same height as a block, but actually books are better in a way because they're different heights. You know, you can stack more than one together and really modulate the height that you need. This is a yoga bolster. It's just a long pillow, so it actually is not only a similar size, but also a very similar color to our couch cushion. So this is clearly the back of the couch cushion. So if yours come off your couch, grab 1 or 2 of those. Here, couch pillows, they're oftentimes the exact same size, so that's handy if you need to prop both of your legs up and you want them the same height. And then we've got some quilts and blankets and afghans, things that, you know, grandmothers and great aunts have made us, and stuff from the Marshalls. So yeah, that's a whole load of props. But as you can see, you just want stuff that you can use nearby. I'll show you in this video different ways that you might want to use these. And really it's about making your own body comfortable and the shape. And you can be incredibly comfortable and feel no stretch, and then it's more like a restorative yoga practice. Or you can feel some sense of opening, some sense of stretching, but not too much. Just enough so that you can stay in the pose for 4 minutes at a time. And yeah, you'll experience what that's like if you haven't by doing this practice. So we'll go ahead and get started stretching the quadriceps, the top of the thighs. And there's a couple ways that we might do this. So for you, you'll just find a stopping place along the way and hold the shape. So if I show you something you like, then you can stay there. So some of us can sit back on the heels like this. And for some people that's totally comfortable. For other people, it's a stretch in the top of the thighs. Another option is to split the feet apart and sit your buttocks between the heels. So again, for some people this is comfortable. For others, there's pain in the knees with this much flexion in the knees. But a way to make this possibly doable is to take a stack of those books and sit your butt up onto them. And really what you're going for is some sensation, but something that's bearable. And we don't want any pain in the knees. So this is an option. I could go on, but I won't. You might want to stay just like this with the hands in the lap, the eyes closed for the rest of the amount of time that we'll be here, about 4 minutes. But if you don't feel anything in that shape and you don't really care to stay there for very long, we can do a low lunge, which in Yin Yoga is called dragon pose. You see one leg is in front of the other. It might not be that easy to get into this shape, so again, you can grab some books or even 2 hard books. Come on to hands and knees with the books, and then step one of your legs forward, doesn't matter which. And what we're going for is a stretch in that back leg. So see how I lifted mine up and slid it out, but it doesn't have to be like 100% your deepest stretch. you'll be here for a while, about 3 more minutes. So find the shape that you want to be in, and we'll hang out here. Another thing you might be noticing is that your back knee is in pain. And maybe if you're sitting on a hardwood floor and you've chosen that first shape that I showed you, you should just adjust so that you place a padding underneath you where you need it. You want to be comfortable. We're here for so long. A lot of the practice is about just taking the time you need to get yourself set up and to get yourself feeling right about it. And I think that in itself is a good practice and one that many of us could use. I myself am guilty of having to go to the bathroom for hours before I get up and go. For some reason, I just let myself be uncomfortable because I just want to finish this one last thing or one last email. And it's a good practice to be like, you know what, my knee hurts. I'm going to put padding underneath it. About another minute. And if you test me and look down at the bar and see exactly how long we've stayed in these poses, you'll notice I'm not perfect. And when you practice on your own, you don't have to be perfect either. You can just stay as long as you like. But we do get different benefits to this sensation, to the exercise of Yin Yoga when you stay for over 90 seconds. What happens is that the muscles soften and the stress of the shape enters your connective tissue. So Yin Yoga is an exercise for the connective tissue, even though it doesn't seem like an exercise at all. And that's largely because we're used to exercising muscle, which is almost the opposite. It's yang, like the yin yang or yin yang. This is yin. So if you're sitting just back on your knees, you'll stay there, or adjust if you're starting to feel uncomfortable. You can always just lay on your back, come out of a shape and rest, which we'll all do together after this pose. If you did just do one leg, you go ahead and do the other. So if you need a break, sit your hips back, maybe a child's pose. If it feels like you're ready to go on to your second side, there's no rush, there's plenty of time. You'll just make that second foot forward and find some sensation. Just 30 to 70% of your maximum. And settle in for another 4 minutes. And so here, if you notice that you're getting some pain in your wrists, you might make knuckles and plant the knuckles down on the ground. If anything feels pinchy or weird, then take that sign from your body that it's telling you to, change a little bit. You can adjust. You can separate the distance between the right and left legs, move them further away from the midline. You can lift your head up or let it hang down, or maybe turn through the neck if it feels like, your shoulders are starting to hold some of the tension. And just breathe. Everybody's different. If before the 4-minute mark it feels like your body's cooked, like it's had enough, then follow that message and back out, rest. Just lay on your belly or your back, or just sit for a moment in a neutral shape that doesn't feel like anything. You'll see me here just rocking side to side a little bit. Part of that is because it's hard to be still. There's a feeling of antsiness. A part of that is because it feels good to rock side to side. Now you're practicing just so you feel better, so your body feels better. You help facilitate a sense of relaxation and calming. And enter into a quieter state of being in your body and in your mind. You have another 1.5 minutes or so. Another reminder, anytime you want to come out of the shape. Also, sorry about that very loud noise. We have a yardstick that's above the door as decoration, and also a shock occasionally. You might have noticed, if that noise was really loud on your end, a jolt through the body. Kind of feeling how the body creates tension when there's a stressor. Whether that's a loud noise or a lot of uncertainty about the future. Practicing yoga, and especially practicing yin, gives us the time to release that attention that has accumulated in our bodies. So come out of this shape. Maybe rest in a child's pose if that's comfortable to you. The legs can touch, forehead to the ground. Some people have their butt up high in a child's pose because it's more comfortable or more doable. If this is neutral and relaxing to you, great. If it requires effort, then maybe you lay on your side, or maybe you just lay on your back. And close your eyes. And notice how your body feels after practicing that dragon pose or the low lunge. Slow down your breathing. Notice your body. And maybe that's all you have time for right now. You don't want to do anymore, and that's fine. You can stop the video, fast forward for some more ideas. Or if you want to keep going on our journey around the thighs and the hips, we will continue. So if you are laying on your back, you want to roll to one side and then press your hands down to sit up very slowly. My head is hanging all the way till I get up to seated. And we're just practicing sort of a lazy, relaxed, slow way of being so that we can slip into a state of calm and comfort and rest. So the next pose, again, there are a lot of options. So you'll find your option and then stick with it. Come out of it when you're ready. There's no wrong way to do this practice. So we want to stretch the inner thighs. So one option, and I'm gonna move these props out of the way. You might need them in a moment. One option to stretch the inner thighs is a straddle, a wide straddle, which is called dragonfly in yin. So you just spread your legs out wide. And that doesn't have to be like as wide as they go. Just any wideness is fine. And now you might in your body be like this, or you might, if your legs are straight, be rocking a lot like this. So we don't want to strain the low back. We want the low back, instead of looking like this rounded back and the buttocks tucking underneath us and the tailbone pointing forward, we want the sitting bones to be down. You see this natural lifting of the low back vertebra up and out of the pelvis. There's a natural curve here. So one way to get that is bend the knees, because it's tightness in the backs of the thighs sometimes that pulls your body into that shape. And another thing you can do is take a blanket or a stack of books. And everyone's different wide, so you can make your books wider too. And just sit up until you can feel a rocking forward of the hips. Now this is too far, I'm exaggerating to show you. But for some people, it takes a lot of lift. You could even grab a chair and sit in a chair with your legs wide like this and just fold over the legs. That's actually really great. I'm just not going to show you that. So also, if your knees are up in the air to help you maintain this upright position, you don't have to leave them there by themselves. You can take a yoga block and stack it underneath there. You can take grandma's blanket and bring it underneath the knees. You just want both legs to be supported and comfortable. You can even take a stack of books or some pillows. Now, if that wasn't a shape that you liked, you might try butterfly. So there the knees are just bent. Same thing goes with the props that are underneath your hips. If you need them, because you're rounding, use them. And butterfly, you bring the soles of the feet together and the knees open wide. This can hurt some people's knees. We really don't want to feel anything on the inner or outer knees. One thing that can help that is, again, stacking up blocks or books underneath the legs, or pillows. These are two different heights, so I would need to play around with these books. Yeah. And if you can't make the knee pain go away, then try maybe that dragonfly pose. Yeah. And if you're quite flexible, you might not feel much of anything, so you lean forward. But we don't want to round forward like this from the spine. It's not really what we're going for here. We're going for the inner thighs. So you tip forward at the hips. You'll feel it. You'll feel it happen. Nice. And then the last option, and you might well be sitting in this thinking, how long is this going for? Well, if it's all right, you know, if it's just an unusual sensation but not a sharp or shooting pain, then maybe stick around and just breathe. Feel what you're feeling. But another thing we can do here too, put some padding down on my carpet for my knees, is to take a wide legs child's pose. So you spread the knees as wide as they go, sit the hips back on the heels, and then crawl the torso forward. I like to stack my palms here. And you just melt into this shape. Of course, you can do all of these. You don't have to hold the pose the whole time I'm talking. But see here, I've brought a blanket underneath my head. That feels really soothing. And I'm still talking. If you just got into a shape, you might in a moment need to pause it to hold it for, you know, your 4 minutes or so. One last thing I want to show you. In child's pose, some people have achiness or a pain in the top of the foot ankle area. My fuzzy socks, these are great for yin. So you can take a blanket and roll it. You'll find the height that you need with experimentation. And you put it underneath. You see that? It's going underneath my top ankle. So that supports the ankle, and it can really make the difference in getting your hips back on your heels by supporting that. Yeah. So same thing. And so if you've been in a pose since the beginning, you've been there for a while now. If you just gotten one, maybe you pause the video and let yourself marinate and receive the shape. We'll move on. So we take a break after each pose. So let's say you're in this dragonfly pose and you're leaning forward. You want to use your hands, use your muscles as best you can. Muscles that you weren't just working with or opening through, an area of the body that isn't compromised by the sensations in the yin pose you were just in. So here you'll use your hands and crawl yourself up to seated. You might bring your hands underneath your knees. Oh, pull them together. Moans and groans are normal. And you'll clear yourself a space for yourself to just lay down and again observe your body. Observe the echoes of sensation now that you're no longer in the shape. And you might keep the knees bent. You might straighten the legs out. I've got a ton of stuff in front of mine. It's actually pretty comfortable. Just kind of give up here. Just blah. Breathe. And notice. And just a few more moments. And take a deeper breath. And slowly, slowly roll onto your side. Pause there. And press yourself up like super slow, silly slow, slower than you would normally think to move, unless you're a sloth and then you got it figured out. So the next many poses I will show you are all options to stretch the hamstrings, so to stretch the backs of the thighs. And the same thing goes from the other pose. If you were sitting up on a platform, you want to sit up on that same platform here so that you can feel your two sitting bones even on the floor and not an excessive rounding at your low back. And this will sound really familiar to the previous pose. So our first option is called caterpillar in Yin Yoga with both of the legs straight. And you can bring the feet so that they're hips width distance apart of the toes together. I sit up fine here and can lean forward because I practice a lot. You might be up on your props with your hands supporting you upright. And again, if the knees are bent, you might slide some support underneath the knees. And one thing that can feel really nice here is to lean forward a bit. So as long as your butt's propped up enough so that you're not rounding through that low back, almost everyone can find at least a little bit of a lean here. If you can't lean at all, bend those knees if that's what you'd like to do. My goal is to have you feel something on the backs of your hamstrings. So this is one option. If you found yourself leaning and relaxing, just let your head go and breathe and notice. Another option is to do one leg at a time. So you'll bend one heel into the groin. And maybe you prop that knee up if it feels like it needs some support. And the other leg straight out from your hip. And here again, knee can be bent, hips can be propped up, and you'll fold yourself down over that extended leg. Another option here is instead of having your foot in your groin, have that foot move behind you. And here we might be getting a little bit of stretch again on the quadricep muscle, and you might just prefer this sensation. And for you, if you're a flexible person and all of these are pretty easy to get into, there are just a lot of options for practicing on your own. You don't have to use this kind of odd instructional video to do your practice. This is just a lot of ways to experience your body. And truly, with Yin, in my opinion on it, is that any shape that you get in and can support yourself creatively in with the props that you've got at hand, and then you just decide you're going to be there for some time, longer than you might normally rest in a stretch shape, and it's good for you. You can make up your own stretches. Sharp shooting pain means you need to move, adjust, find a more comfortable shape. Or any numbness or tingling, you need to move and just, so that it goes away. Our attitude while we rest in these shapes is one of passivity, one of just like, oh, so you just fall, let your bones fall to earth. Imagine you just fell asleep, just a deep, deep sleep. If you ever held a sleeping child, or you know how heavy they get because their muscles are all, limp. They're just weight. It's the kind of feeling you want to approximate and cultivate. We're not pulling or trying or making really much of an effort. Really, we're finding that place of non-effort. So to come out, wherever you are, use the strength in your arms to sit yourself up very slowly so you can keep the nervous system heading towards a state of relaxation if you're not quite there yet. And if you were doing both legs straight forward, you might choose to stay there and go in for a second round, maybe taking some of the props away, or you might choose to lie on your back and rest for the other side if we're doing right and left. Of course, you can fast forward the video. So here, you're either both legs straight, or the other foot in the groin, or behind you. The right and left sides of the body are different. So one side of the body might like something that the other side of the body doesn't want. You don't have to be even here. You really don't. I like using the cushion on my couch because it's really soft and fluffy. It's not too heavy, and it gives me a platform to lay on. So here, I feel a little bit of stretch actually in my calf more than the back of my thigh, and that's because that's where I'm tight in my leg. So for you, it might be, who knows? My neck feels kind of sore with it hanging like this, so that just tells me to grab more props. Oh, because eventually, like, I can tell when my neck feels a little bit better. And so, get creative. It's like when you wake up at night in your bed and you're uncomfortable and you're just sort of like, get the thing. At least that's what I do. Another thing, if you're wearing glasses and you don't need them, at least for the next few minutes while we are in this shape, maybe take them out. And notice if you have a ponytail in and it's uncomfortable, heed the call. Take out the tail, man. You might have practiced Yin Yoga in the past, or it might be something completely new to you. And you might not have known that you could practice yoga in this passive way. You might have thought it was all exercise and sweat and breathing, but there are so many different ways to practice the yoga asana. Asana means posture, is one translation of asana, a posture. And so that's the physical practice that we do with our bodies. And the way I like to practice is to balance myself. So if I'm feeling, really anxious, or like I have a lot of excess energy, I guess there's a lot of ways that you could go with that. Maybe sometimes it's antsiness and you need to sweat to get it out. It feels like you want to do a vigorous practice or go on a run. But if I'm feeling really tense in my body, my muscles are really tight, it's another manifestation of anxiety that doesn't necessarily accompany excess energy, but more of like just a lethargy and a tightness and a constriction. Then I might want to work that out through a Yin Yoga practice. Just laying here on the floor in different stretches, supported by our props. It's not easy, even though it might look lazier than an active practice. For so many of us, the hardest thing to do is to relax. And part of that is because the mind just keeps going and it wants the body to be going too, or to be proving itself with productivity or doing something that mirrors the monkey mind. So this stuff gets easier. Staying in one position relatively still gets easier if you practice. And the ability to soften into what might be some discomfort in the stretch, really. Stretching isn't always feel good. Sometimes it's like kind of good for me, but feels, ugh. You're relaxing into discomfort, and what a life skill, because life is sometimes uncomfortable. So who knows how long we've been here, or if you've listened to me or fast forwarded. If you're hearing this now, thanks for staying. Slowly sit yourself up. Excuse me. Move the props out of the way, and again, we'll all come to rest. So lie down, knees bent or legs straight. I like to walk my feet apart and let the knees fall into one another. Now I want my hands on my body just for comfort and for warmth. If you're cold, you got blankets. Cover yourself. And just notice how you're feeling in your physical body. Scan your hips and your thighs and your knees your calves, and the feet. In a rare moment of silence in this video, it didn't just cut off. So we'll move on. And I want to stay on our backs. And I want you to get comfortable on your back. So you can see I just moved a block underneath my head. Mostly so I can see the camera, but also because I can show you that having your head propped up too high, the chin is above the chest, and it could cause some tension in the neck muscles. Now, if that feels good to you, stay there. It's a perfect yin stretch. But what I want you to do is just prop up your head enough so that your forehead and nose are parallel with one another, and they're about even with the top of the chest. You don't have to get too picky with this. If your head feels all right, then you're in the right spot. But for some people, their upper back or their shoulders are rounded or tight, and the head gets tossed back like this when you're laying on your back. So that's why we put something underneath it, just to make space for the way your body is structured right now. And here we'll bring the heels so that they're hips width distance apart. And we'll take a figure 4 stretch. You might be familiar with this. It stretches the deep six, the external rotators of the hip. So you cross, let's do our right ankle on the top of the left thigh, just right beneath the knee. And then take your right hand and press the thigh away from the face. You might feel a stretch here. So this is where you'll stay for the 4 minutes. If you don't feel much of anything, pull that left leg into the chest and then interlace your fingers behind the thigh or over the shin. This can be a useful place to grab a yoga block or a book, because we're here for a while, and get it set up underneath your left heel so that you can use even less effort to hold yourself in this shape. And if you have any pain in the knee, you can experiment with moving your right ankle down towards your left hip crease. You can experiment with flexing through your ankle, so pulling the toes back towards the shin. And if none of that really helps, then back out of the pose a little bit. Your left foot back on the floor, maybe even walk it a little further away from you, and then press the right thigh away until you feel maybe something right around your sitting bone. So this stretch this pose, we're not doing too many alternatives, just different variations within the same shape. And again, you can make these up for yourself. Just slow your breath down. Notice what you're feeling through that right leg. Smooth breathing. Is there a place in your body that you can relax, that you don't need to be holding on to maintain this shape? Maybe you rock your head to one side. And relax the skin on your forehead. Relax your jaw. Let your teeth separate. Lick your lips and swallow. And then relax your tongue. Feel it get broad and sink to the base of the mouth. Ask yourself, are my shoulders sore? Are they tense? Do I need to adjust where I've chosen to put my hands and arms? And if the answer is yes, then let your body move intuitively. And can you relax your shoulders around the tops of your shoulders and around your shoulder blades? Feel the arms and shoulders get heavier and fall down towards the ground beneath you. You probably realized by now I'm eyeballing the time at best. And we'll change sides. Remove the right leg. Before we go on, let's just rest for a second. So you might like to knock the knees, you might straighten the legs, or it might feel like you want some movement. So if you do decide to move the body, just move it really slowly. We're in quicksand. We are using all of these tools to ultimately relax, to release some tension, to make some space. And when you feel ready, you will start the second side. So now the left ankle crosses over the right knee. You press the left thigh away from the face. Maybe you pull the right knee into the chest and hold on to the right leg. You can explore the differences in relaxing the left foot or pulling the toes back towards your left knee. Some people like to straighten that right leg, the bottom leg. It really is just about feeling your body, being in your body, and then waiting for the time to give the body the yin experience, to give the connective tissues a chance to receive the pose. And that takes time. Physiologically, it just takes time. You can't rush this practice. Loosen up on yourself a little bit if you've really gone for 110%. And relax if both of the sides are different. Just notice that and be interested in that about yourself if it wasn't something you already knew. And instead of trying to force a different outcome, just collect as much data and information about your current state of being as possible. So instead of wishing it was different, be curious about what it is. And in this way, we use our yoga practice to come to know ourselves better. I'm noticing my neck feels uncomfortable on so much height. When I took that pause and thought, okay, what is with my body right now? It's not that I knew exactly what to do, I just knew what didn't feel good. So I'm trying something different. You probably hear the helicopter, which is not unusual in Los Angeles where I am. The news helicopters and the police helicopters fly over. I say something about that because different things kind of scare different people, different sounds, like when the yardstick fell earlier, that big loud noise, that probably makes most people jump. But helicopters, the sound of helicopters to me was really scary when I first moved here, and I didn't really even have a reason, it just did. And yet still, here we can be still and practice relaxing. So even with these unusual sounds or things happening around us, I can still be here on the floor, smoothing out my breath, allowing the changing sensations to happen in my hip, making small adjustments so that I find comfort, so that I can either stay in the shape or, if I need to, adjust my way all the way out of it. But sticking with this practice of relaxing. No matter what my mind tells me needs to happen, truly none of those things are in my control right now, and I do have the time to be here and to stretch here. And it's good for me. Here we'll release this side, and again, take your break. Find your very slow movement or your very comfortable and neutral stillness. Check back in with the body if your mind has wandered in a different direction, and notice what there is inside for you to notice. See, it's been 41 minutes, so we'll do a twisting pose before our final shavasana. We don't do very many poses in Yin because we don't hold the poses, or we hold the poses for a long time. Really, just doing one pose is beneficial. So here, I want you to make sure you've got a blanket or pillow, just something with height, something comfortable onto one side of the body. So we'll put it on the right side of your body. And if you've got a bunch of stuff, you might as well put another setup, some height on the left side of your body. So we're going to be twisting, and we want our knees to rest on something. So here, pull your left knee into your chest. So we'll use the thing on the right side of the body first. It's on the right side of the hip. Straighten your right leg down to the end of the mat. And then hold on to your left knee with your right hand and bring that left hand out to the left. Any comfortable position. It might be bent 90 degrees at the elbow, which we call goalpost or cactus. You might have enough space to straighten the arm. And here we'll just twist to the right. So you bring your left leg across the body and try and keep the left shoulder on the ground. So see, my knee is like hovering over this blanket. It's not tall enough. So I found something else to lift up those props so that my leg is supported. Oh, there we go. I needed quite a lot of height here. You might too. Both of my shoulders are still on the ground, so we're getting a nice twist through the spine. And I'm also feeling a stretch, some sensation of opening on the outer left hip. And you can let go with the right hand and bring it out to the side as well, matching the shape of the left arm. Some people like to straighten the left leg. You can do whatever you'd like. I feel like right now I'd like to bend my right knee. So that bottom leg, I took it, bent at the knee. I'm still getting a twist, still getting some outer hip opening. Completing our 360 degrees around the thighs. So just breathe here and soften. So we started this practice, more of a tutorial of a lot of different ways to stretch the legs and use props. We started with the top of the thigh, the quadricep muscles. So we opened up the top of the thigh. And then we moved into the inner thigh and groin, and even some of the hamstrings. So we opened up through the inner thigh. Then we moved to the hamstrings. We opened up the back of the thigh. Then we moved deep into the buttocks. And we worked with our external rotators around the sitting bone. And now we're at the outer hip. Outer hip and into the spine with this twist. Notice what's on your mind. You got a snapshot. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe there was a certain line of thinking that you noticed. Maybe what you were thinking was familiar, or maybe it was something new. Now that you've got your attention, can you focus it on your body? Just find an area in the body, maybe where you feel the most in this twist, or maybe where you feel your breath moving your body. And soften your mind behind the forehead, soften the brain. And spend the next few breath cycles with your awareness and concentration tied to that place that you've chosen. And if and when your mind wandered and it forgot it was trying to concentrate, just bring it right back for a couple more breaths. That's the practice. If your left leg is straight, you'll want to bend the knee and bring the foot in towards your left buttocks, and then slowly roll yourself onto the back. Bend both legs, plant your feet on the floor, let your knees knock in towards one another, straighten the legs. Move all these things so you can see me a little bit better. Got a lot of stuff everywhere. And we'll do the second side. So now you might have to sit up or help yourself get all the stuff that was on one side to the other side, or maybe you had other things over there. We pull the right knee into the chest and lengthen the left leg long. Hold on to that right knee with the left hand and bring the left arm out to the left side of the body. So bent elbow, straight elbow, doesn't matter. And here we'll twist the right leg over to the left, crossing the body. My right hip lifts off the ground, but my right shoulder stays down. If I go too far, my right shoulder starts to lift up. I want it to stay down, so I gotta just respect however high my knee is, and then use a bunch of props until it feels supported. And that left arm comes down to the side of the body as well. Here we're just doing the other side, right? So close the eyes. Smooth out the breath. And I'll be quiet for the next couple minutes. So your video hasn't frozen. I'll just actually give you some time to experience the silence and stillness in the yin shape. So we'll come out of this side. Bend your right knee, pull the heel in towards the bum, and roll your way onto your back. Both feet on the floor. Let the knees knock. Just a couple breaths. Perhaps you've settled into more of a state of relaxation. Sometimes it takes more practice just to return and to keep trying to find just that sense of relaxation, and that's okay too. We have one last pose, shavasana. It's a time for the body to integrate all that you've been doing. And here I want to get set up in shavasana, so roll to one side and take a couple breaths. And sit yourself up, head hangs, moving really slow. Oh, I feel more relaxed. I just want your legs to be propped up on something. Just having the legs elevated can be very soothing. It's good for right before bed. So I'm using my biggest prop that I have, the couch cushion. And I'm gonna even put my 2 couch pillows on top of it and this blanket. I've made myself a nice tall platform. If you're cold, or to be more comfortable, this is like cozy nap time in kindergarten. Except better because you're at home and you have all your stuff. You'll find something to cover yourself up with. And then if you had something underneath your head before, the floor is hard, you'll put that same thing underneath your head. So here, lie with your butt close to your tower of props that will be for your legs. And then place your legs up on that tower. Mine kind of feels wobbly, so I might need to adjust a couple things so it doesn't feel like my legs are just gonna fall right off of it, but I actually kind of like the way that feels, so I'm gonna go for it. Like I said, you can't really do this wrong. And cover up with your blanket. And close your eyes. And we'll just be here for about 3 minutes. Then the video will end and we'll say goodbye. You might choose to stay here, to just have a nap or have a sleep. Ride that wave, the results of your practice. And here, just let everything go. Shavasana. So if you choose to stay, stay. If you choose to move out of it, roll to one side and take a few breaths in the fetal position. And then slowly sit yourself up. Take a few breaths once seated. If you need to get off the floor and tidy, just go very slow. Take a few breaths standing or sitting on a chair before you get up, and stay with that rhythm we've cultivated in the last 56 minutes. So this was a Yin Yoga practice with a bunch of household props, and I hope you noticed that there are sounds around me and distractions, and you don't need the perfect environment to practice yoga, or just, you can call it stretching, to practice relaxing, to give yourself space and time to settle down. The world will keep changing and moving and being its chaotic self around us, and if we wait for the perfect time to start serving ourselves in this way, we'll just be waiting forever. So we might as well work with what we're in. Yeah. Thank you.